Aloha Aquascaping World, this is Stephen Chong from the Tokyo Aquascaping Union in Japan, as well as the Aquascapers Collective in North America, and Stevescapes here on YouTube. Today I'm going to be starting a series of videos talking about my work for the IAPLC 2019. That's the International Aquatic Plant Layout Contest 2019. So the IAPLC is the biggest planted aquarium contest in the world. It's like the world championship event of the hobby. This year there were over 1,800 layouts. I had the tremendous honor of receiving world rank 15th, putting me once again in the top 27 honor ranks. Again, it's a tremendous honor because, all 1,800 works, they all have their backstory. Everyone puts in so much effort into creating the beautiful aquascapes that we see year after year. And today in this video, I'd like to talk about one of those stories, the story that went into creating this aquascape, Amano-Gawa, ranked 15th. So I want to talk today about the different ideas that the things I was looking at, the things I was studying, the people I was talking to, all the different pieces that inspired me and brought me to the culmination of ideas that would help me to create this layout, Amano-Gawa. And even the title, I think it signals something interesting as soon as I say it, right? Because everyone knows Amano Takashi, whose company ADA obviously hosts the contest. Amano-san is like the god of the aquascaping world. And yes, this title, Amano-Gawa, is a reference to him. Amano-Gawa in Japanese means Milky Way. The characters literally write as Heaven's River. And I kind of changed the spelling for my own layout to, instead of saying Heaven's River, say Amano's River. And this aquascape is dedicated to the nature of Japan. I thought, because I had the tremendous privilege of living here in Japan and studying under Japanese masters like Masashi Ono and Fukada Takayuki from the Tokyo Aquascaping Union, I should make a layout somewhere completely dedicated to the nature of Japan, and this is that layout. So Amano-Gawa, or Heaven's River, it is an aquascape dedicated to the nature of Japan. All of the plants are Japanese natives, and I wanted to create a layout that was very biotope-esque. In fact, it's been great because people from the biotope community have said that it looks biotope-ish, or it looks, very real, which, is a point of pride for this aquascape. All of the plants are native Japanese plants. The fish too, I wanted to use a native Japanese plant. I wanted to use a native Japanese fish for this aquascape, but all of my friends in the Tokyo Aquascaping Union were like, don't do it, don't do it. No matter which fish you go, including the pale chub that you were wanting to work with, all of them eat plants, so don't do it. So instead, we used Beryllia spiceri, which is an Asian hill stream trout from South Asia. But I think, it all came together kind of as I imagined it. A fast-flowing stream featuring Riccia and Hairgrass and Potomagetengai, a combination of plants that Amano-san also featured in fantastic Japanese nature-focused works that he did in the original Nature Aquarium World series. So I'm not going to talk so much about the layout today, so much as the backstory behind it. I think that getting into any layout, the starting point comes from the previous year. So let's jump to 2018. In 2018, I had the even more tremendous honor of receiving world ranked 5th, a bronze prize. And guys, this was the first time that Americans had ever reached the top 7 of the contest. It's something that I'd personally dreamed about ever since I started the hobby back in 2004. Put myself on a personal journey to become a top competitive layouter. And it was also my first time to, reach the top rankings of the contest. Ranked 5th, bronze prize, it was a tremendous honor. And also, my buddy Hip Hong reached ranked 4th. So for the first time in the world, we have aquascapers from the US reaching the top 7, and there's 2 of us. It was like an earth-shaking, even beyond the US. I mean, for the world to see the US as a potential real competitor in the contest. We had 4 folks in the top 127, all of them members of the Aquascapers Collective. definitely check out the group on Facebook. If you're a North American aquascaper who's interested in becoming more serious, we have a lodge group where there's more members and more conversation. And for those who are really serious about competition, the Aquascapers Collective Crucible is a group very similar to the Tokyo Aquascaping Union in Japan. A handful of guys who are really committed to bringing their level up to the next game. So that year, Sean Mack, Jeff Miyake, Hip Hong, and Stephen Chong, four of us were in the top 20s, 127, and then of course Hip and I in the top 7. It was a really memorable year for the U.S. And why I'm coming back to this 2018 result in order to talk about 2019, the results were extraordinary, not just for the US, but the results were pretty extraordinary for aquascaping's trends, because it was the first time that Hip's work and then Hironori Honda's work, the grand prize layout, it was the first time to see, it was the first time so to back up a little bit, in the world of aquascaping, there are two kind of styles. Like in a recent video in Green Aqua, Josh Sim, who is another 2-time world champion, he described the two styles as Zen and Wild. But I think more people colloquially will know them as NA style and diorama style. So NA style is kind of the recreation of Mr. Amano's traditional style. It's very, or what Josh would call Zen. It's the type of style that it's the type of style of layouts that people are probably really accustomed to seeing. A few minimal, strong mid-ground elements of wood and stone surrounded by different groups of plantings. They're usually fairly well organized. Some have even described it as like Dutch brought into Japanese. And actually, Mr. Amano's style did evolve out of the Dutch tradition, bringing in ideas of Japanese gardening to create what would eventually become, ADA style, Amano style, the nature aquarium style. For this hobby, it's the traditional way of making an aquascape. Compared to, let's say, my aquascape is a really good example of diorama, as is World Rank 2 by Min Tuan Nguyen. If I'm mispronouncing your name, apologies, bro. Can't speak Vietnamese to save my life. Maybe Hip can jump in and save me here. But this is World Rank 2. This is another example of a diorama type aquascape. I think World Rank 3 by my teacher Takayuki Fukada kind of treads the midline. It's very informed by the diorama style, and Fukada-san's layouts are traditionally very diorama heavy, but he's kind of bringing in elements from the traditional NA style. But world rank number one to be the traditional NA style is something we haven't seen in ages. And we almost never see a professional at World Rank 1 either, let alone, someone who's a direct disciple of Mr. Amano. Honda-san had previously worked at Aqua Design Amano. He, worked hand in hand with the master himself and created several layouts. So Honda-san's work is always extremely, faithful to that tradition. And Hip too, I can tell you that Hip is an American aquascaper who, he's from Texas, so he's been directly influenced a lot by the Sensuke brothers at Aqua Design Group, and they are from a previous generation. I think starting at 2004, I'm already kind of an oldie in a weird kind of way, but the Sensuke brothers are from a generation even before that, so they have roots and a deep connection to the traditional style, and that's something that Hip has always taken tremendous inspiration from. So he usually comes out straight up NA, right down the middle, like going all out on it. And for him to reach rank 4th and Hironori Honda to reach rank 1 with the traditional style, I think it was a big earth. It definitely caused a lot of disruption in the hobby. It was disruption that was needed. But I think it also signaled that at the time, it felt like we were being signaled that, the judges and different people in the hobby were ready to get back to a sense of more tradition, peaceful aquascapes. The title of this work was Yurari, which in Japanese means relaxation or calming down or flow. So Honda-san's work was definitely a work that was meant to ease you, relax you, and I think that was something. So for myself, like coming out of the contest, I really wanted to dig into these guys' heads, see, because I felt like there was something that here for me to learn personally, since this is the exact opposite of the style that I'm traditionally used to. Um, you want to branch out, you want to learn new things, and I think that coming out of 2018, I felt like I had a whole lot to learn from Honda-san and Hip about what was going on in their minds. And talking to Hip especially, he told me that every day after work he would come back and stare at his aquascape for an hour or two. Now I have kids at home, so I have no time for that. But it really meant something to me to hear about like the personal relaxation, how important Hip's work was in his day-to-day life, getting through the grind of the rough times that we all have. And I thought, that's something that's really important to the hobby. That's something that we should never let go of. The fact that nature at arm's reach can calm us down. It can um, help us. It can help us make sense of the world and help us find our inner zen. So that was something that I thought that I should treasure, especially since to create my work. Oh man, that was like chaos. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Like this layout itself was learning experience for me, with like this huge rock collapsing forward at one time, or these pieces falling down, or having to restructure different bits and pieces even as the thing went through, rebuilding the entire foreground a month before the photo shoot. So this aquascape for me was in no way, no place a point of relaxation in my life. It was in no way, um, you know, an escape for me. It was a source of stress in a lot of ways. And I felt like that might have been the difference between rank 4 and rank 5. So going into IAPLC 2018, a personal goal of mine was to find my inner yurari, to find my inner point of relaxation, to make the work, something that supported my life and my inner peace. So that's kind of the point of reference where I was going into the aquascape mentally. I wanted to create a work that was dedicated to the nature of Japan, and I wanted to create a work that would help me find my inner zen. I thought that these two themes went hand in hand perfectly, and I would create aquascapes that were dedicated to the natural Japanese riverways that I could see around me. Especially a point of inspiration was Kamikochi. This is a park in Nagano Prefecture. I don't know if any of you guys remember the Nagano Olympics, but Nagano is a prefecture north of Kanto, where Tokyo is. My wife is from the Nagano area, so I've been to Kamikochi several times. It is an amazing park. If you ever get the chance to come to Japan and you want to do some nature exploring, um, well, it's kind of off the beaten track compared to going to Kyoto or going to Kamakura or Hakone. But I definitely, if you're going to do traveling in Nagano, and Nagano is a tourist prefecture, Kamikochi is just amazing park. Like, look at this. Look at this lush green river. Look at how clear these rivers are. Every time I saw this type of natural scene, I just felt cooled down. I felt relaxed. I felt my, I felt yurari, as Anda-san's layout would put it. And um, so seeing these fast-flowing cold streams, usually this is up in the mountains, so it's fed by snow, right? But there's also a lot of riverways in Nagano that are fed by natural springs. And these types of pure, clean waterways in Japan, the coldness of them, the freshness of them, the the coolness of feeling that you would take away. That was something that I wanted to capture in my layout. Um, And then going beyond, my own personal exploration, like what kind of items was I looking at? There's a whole bunch of books that I was studying from. I personally like to do a lot of research going into an aquascape. I feel like, you know, researching the plants, researching the fish, their native habitats, looking at photos, thinking about, different themes like tropicalness or um, coolness or heat or color or structure, and then deep diving on like what type of research I can do. That type of story building is what really excites me about the hobby, and putting together an aquascape. And so these are some of the reference books that I was working from in order to create Amano-Gawa. First of all, this one is Izukusa Kobanashi. This is a book by Yamazaki Mitsuo, who is a longtime judge of the ADA contest. In 2018, he retired from the judging board, despite a long history of contributing to the contest. And this book is one that he wrote about his many adventures, looking at aquatic plants and studying them around the world. It's a really interesting good book if you get the chance to get your hands on it. It was a gift from the 2018 ADA Nature Aquarium party. I think you might be able to find copies online. It might be hard. But it's a really in-depth book going through his own personal adventures. Really interesting background into the history of the hobby and how different things sprung up and different themes and developments within the hobby around the technology of the hobby, development of the hobby. But the most valuable pages for us, I think, as aquascapers are the ones talking about Yamazaki-san's own personal adventures. And for me, there was lots of pages in here talking about his different explorations of waterways and like how those waterways work and why they are the way they are. Um, to me personally, I'm not a big fan of reading a lot in Japanese. I mean, I can do it now, but um, I tried to delve into this as much as possible. It's pretty dense though, a lot of writing in there. The next book that I worked a lot from was Chris Lookhop's Wasserwelten. Chris Lookhop, he is an incredible photographer. Check him out on Facebook. And actually, it was the photos of waterways in Florida that really inspired me. You know, Mr. Amano's aquascapes feel like they're just out there. Like you never see these types of plant diversity, like the stems growing that way or coming together. But when you see Chris's works from Florida, it just feels like the world of Mr. Amano is real. Um, and actually, the photos in this book are only a piece of what you can find of his work. If you go to his Facebook page, they're just really incredible photos from all of his explorations. But the photos from Florida in particular blow me away and gave me a lot of inspiration thinking about the way rivers and waterways work and the way plants, show themselves. So another book that I bought, Nihon no Mizukusa. This is a book completely talking about plants in Japan. I actually bought this book at Honda-san's shop when I was visiting it with Hip. Um, this is a book, completely dedicated to the. All right, sorry guys, I'm gonna need to get water. I'll come back and continue in a second. Alright guys, sorry about that. Let me jump back in where I left off. A field guide to aquatic plants in Japan, Nihon no Mizukusa. Well, as you'd expect, this is an in-depth field guide about the different species that you can find in Japan. And when I got to go through pages and pages of descriptions of environments, what species grow in them, wild facts like Glossostigma latinoides. Glosso is apparently a Japan native. I love all the different pages about Potamogeton types. Man, Japan has a lot of Potamogeton types, and these would be a feature of my contest layout in the end. Another tremendous reference book, Aqua General 71 from September 2001, guys. This is classic, really classic. An aqua journal dedicated to Japanese plants and Japanese fish. layouts that Amano-san made that were Japan specific, and this is a really great book. It was a gift to me from Yo Yoshida, who was a member of the Tokyo Aquascapers study group. He's someone who's taking lessons from the Tokyo Aquascaping Union. He's going to be a repeated character in this story, well, in these different videos, because man, he saved my butt so many times in putting this layout together. And I like to think I also helped contribute to his work. Yoshida-san's layout from this year, Journey, love it. Unfortunately, it didn't reach the top 127 like we were hoping, 220 fine works, but this is a great layout, guys. This is oh man, I love it. Also, an aquascape inspired by Kamikochi, or specifically the mountains of Kamikochi. Go check out some photos of those landscapes. You can see Yoshida-san nailed it. Really looking forward to what he comes up with next year. For people who'd like to go talk with him and get to know him, he is really getting active in the international community. So yeah, drop him a friend request. While I'm here, another shout out, I forgot Kim Polke, who bought me and brought me Chris Lukov's book all the way from Sweden. Well, he's from Sweden. Chris is from Germany, but you couldn't get the book sold outside of Europe at the time. And in 2007, when I asked for it, and Kim brought it to me when he visited us here in Japan. Kim's an accomplished aquascaper himself, so go check out some of his works. Getting back to Aqua General 71, let's get into this. Just incredible photos that Amano-san took out in the field. I think this photo is a classic one from Nature Aquarium World, and part of what's always been in the back of my head and eventually inspired me to make the layout that we're working on. But even taking a look at this photo, it's like it's a really powerful, inspiring scene from inside of a river. But thinking about how to actually express it this way, especially when you can't push plants. Normally, you don't think you can push plants down like this within the aquarium, which is a confined space. It's a photo that always, gnawed on me and wanted me to try challenging it, but one that until I started putting this layout together, I had no idea how to create. It was great to see it once again, as well as some of Amano-san's other in the field underwater photos. And then it also has obviously layouts that Amano-san himself worked on. Let's see, Izunida. What is it in English? Japanese aquatic onion, Izunida, and bitterlings, as well as Java. I really love this work. This is a great aquascape that Amano-san put together. So much atmosphere to it, and so simple, right? Then for sure, you can see that there's a whole bunch of different layouts featured in this Aqua Journal, and featuring different types of Japanese fish I could have considered, though all of these actually do eat plants. So I'm sure it was a continuous battle. Maybe that's what the issues with the hairgrass foreground is too. And then also like just, lists of plants, lists of fish, condition, equipment that was used. It was a great reference book in so many ways. And I especially love in the back pages of this, there's like 5 or 6 pages of plant descriptions. I did eventually use it. Sorry, this Hydrilla verticillata was going to be ended up being a featured plant in the layout. So this book was another great reference to learn about the different species and plants and also fish that, it gave me a better imagination for how these environments work. Another photo from Amano-san with Oikawa, the pale chub, which was my initial fish. This was the fish that I initially wanted to use, but eventually switched to Beryllius, which is very similar looking. So yeah, this Aqua Journal 71 is a tremendous book. I don't know if you can get your hands on it, but if you can, definitely scoop it up because fantastic. And then the last book, I didn't actually buy this one at the time, but Sado, Amano-san's book about different scenes from nature from Sado Island, which is also Niigata Prefecture, where Mr. Amano is from. And this book provided for me this book provided for me the final key in putting Amano-Gawa, the Aquascape, together. And what's really interesting is that it's not a river photo. You guys can tell from Chris Lookop's works to Amano-san's old photos to a whole bunch of different references. I spent a lot of time going through pages and pages of photos and different references to learn about the way rivers work, including my own exploration. But it wasn't a photo from inside of a river that gave me, the final key to putting this all together. It was an ocean photo. This is it. This is the shot, the photo that gave me the key to putting all the different ideas that I had together into an aquascape. So these collections of photos by Mr. Amano are really valuable to us as aquascapers because he has aquascaping on the brain. Whether it's the forests in Amazon or these photos from Sado, the different shots that Amano-san took are fantastic references for making an aquascape. And this one is definitely, shot that I think is easily overlooked because it's not the most impactful one that you can find in the collection. And being an ocean-based photo, it's not something that aquascapers typically look at a whole lot. But man, in terms of structure for making an aquascape, this was magical to me because what Amano-san has here, so it's a convex structure here, right? And convex is incredibly useful because convex naturally creates a center area where the eye is drawn into. You can make concave layouts, which are the other way, this type of structure. But the thing about concave is that, you have something so dead in the center, it really makes it hard to build a whole lot of story. It's a big challenge. Whereas, concave, so I should say convex, you have the natural story of the build up on both sides that leads to a point in the middle. And this is, very typical in high level aquascapes. You can draw the viewer in and bring them into something that you want to show them, which is something I really wanted. But when you have a river aquascape and you're trying to make a flow, you're trying to make, the story of a river is usually very left to right or right to left. It's extremely directional, and it doesn't really, you can look at a lot of different photos of rivers. You can think of a lot of ways of putting it together, but it usually doesn't grant itself well to this convex structure of having a strong left side and a strong right side. Usually you end up in your brain thinking that one side is going to be high and one side is going to be low, and you're going to have a very strong direction from left to right. Or maybe there is no vanishing point at all. The layout just goes from left to right or right to left. But here, what Amano-san did is he has a convex structure, but it's two sides, right? And there's a flow in the middle because the vanishing point is off screen. It's somewhere that you can't see. And I thought, this has got it all. This has all the pieces that I want. It has a way to build up the story on the left and right. It has a way of describing flow and taking the story off the page. And most interestingly, it has a way of framing aquatic plants as the main actor in the story. I knew that anything that I planted here would reflect off the surface and give me another way of talking about the story of plants. So, it's a totally different scale. It's a totally different theme photo. It's a totally different structure and story that Amano-san was telling. But this photo has the structure I needed to put together a river photo. And after seeing this photo, I made this drawing. It's not one of my greatest drawings. It's not one I put a whole lot of effort into because honestly, I already knew what I wanted to do as soon as I saw Amano-san's photo. But yeah, this was the final result I was going for. And I knew, and after seeing Amano-san's photo, I knew that I would be able to do this. It wouldn't be hard. It would let me find my inner zen. It wouldn't take excruciating effort, but I would be able to put together an interesting, compelling story that would have aquatic plants at the very center of it. So that's all I got for you today, guys. Please keep following. I'm going to be doing more videos about, how I took this illustration and started putting the pieces together to actually make it. I don't think I'm going to go too in depth on the actual construction of the hardscape, but more stories about the adventure of putting the layout together in the future. Right now, I'm getting ready to go to Shanghai for the CIAC literally tomorrow. So this video will probably appear sometime while I'm over there. Hopefully, assuming that I can get on YouTube somehow. All right, guys. Well, thanks for everything, and see you soon. Peace.